today's session, we're going to do three things. One, we're going to help you get set up and prepare for the first day with students. And we'll provide you with some resources and advice for things to think about and steps you should take before your students arrive, such as classroom setup, device management and routines, as well as information on how your students are going to log in and access their resources. And then two, we're going to share information about what impactful technology use is and give you even more than 20 days worth of activities that can help you use the first weeks of school to set up your workshop model while simultaneously introducing important GISD recommended digital tools to your students. And you and your students will have the opportunity to have some low stakes practice getting started, and this will help scaffold the student use of those tools so that when you go deeper into your curriculum, they'll have a little background knowledge and it won't be as rough onboarding them. And then the third thing we're going to do during this session is challenge you to document some of the activities you're doing with your students from this session and enter a drawing for a Sonic or a Starbucks or maybe even a lunch delivery. So let's get started by doing a quick collaborative activity. And I want to let you know that we're going to be taking questions in the chat. So if you're joining and you have questions, Heather and Charlotte and I will be responding in the chat so that we stay on course to finish in our 45 minutes. So any questions that come to mind, put them in the chat and we will respond to you or find out what your answer is for you. Okay, so we're going to do our quick collaborative activity, and this is using a tool called Jamboard. I know a lot of you guys have been using Jamboard. So this is a would you rather activity, and I'm going to drop this link in the chat so that you can grab it and click in with us. So go ahead and click on that link. The first slide you're going to see in the jam is kind of some teacher instructions. And so if you decide to use this, you can delete that first slide. It kind of tells you how to make a copy for yourself so that your students can edit it also. So go to the second slide and you can see that Heather's gone to the second slide in the presentation, and it says, would you rather be able to do magic or read minds? So if you'll put your name on a sticky note and tell me a reason why you're choosing your choice. So if you'd rather do magic, put it on the left next to the magic wand. If you'd rather read minds, put your sticky note on the right and add your sticky note beside your name one reason why you're making that choice. Okay, I'm going to let you guys kind of get in there. Sometimes the sticky notes get all stacked up. And so once you type yours, go ahead and drag it to another location so we can see everybody's notes. And that's something your kids will do too. They might get all stacked up and not be able to see theirs. And so you can, unstack them by dragging them around your board. So while y'all are doing that, this type of activity allows your students to practice speaking and listening and typing. So what I would do once everybody's made a selection, and I would put this on my new line in my classroom so that, like you can see on our Meet, we can see people creating sticky notes in real time. And it's kind of interesting to see what people are writing or where they're moving their notes to. So you could do that also on your new line. And then I would have, once everybody's had a chance to do that, I would, use some strategy. It can just be like a turn and talk to your neighbor, explain what you chose and why. And so they have a little conversation so they can practice listening and speaking. And then you could choose a strategy for sharing out. So maybe we want everybody to explain what your turn and talk partner did. So I might explain to the group what Heather chose and why she chose that. So you get to practice writing, speaking, listening, and then sharing with the group, as well as kind of a get to know each other, you know, conversation starter, I guess. So I'm looking at some of these. Okay, I like that Mendoza chose because the house can be cleaned in a snap, literally. I'm totally with you. Shailene, never have to clean again. Um, Stephanie chooses read minds. I would like to read minds so that I would always know how other people are feeling. Okay, so these are pretty cool. And so just a way to start a conversation, get your class to know each other, and then also practice some of those skills with each other. So thanks for playing with us on that. And I hope that's something you can use. Included in this presentation is a huge slide deck of jams like this that you could use maybe one a day just to kind of get some conversations started. All right. From here, we're going to jump into some of our content, and Sandy Kendall is going to start us off.
Hi, I'm Sandy Kendall, and I'm going to talk with you about some of the logistics of getting you and your students set up for success this school year with using technology in your classroom. The very first person you need to take care of is yourself. So to know your technology resources, the digital learning team has set up for you this back to school technology resources hyperdoc. You'll want to come to the slides from the presentation today and click this link in order to bring up these resources. And you'll want to bookmark these by clicking the star in your bookmarks bar and adding it to a place on your bookmarks bar where you can find it. This is your one-stop shop for all of your back-to-school questions, such as how to set up your voicemail, how to find your digital resources in ClassLink, what kinds of technology you should expect to see in your classroom, Skyward, updating your website, your email signature, and so many other things. So please make sure you visit this to get the fastest answers to the questions you are likely to have this time of year. Next, let's talk about setting up your physical and digital classroom for success. As you arrange your physical classroom, think about a few things that can make life a lot easier. First of all, you'll probably have a small group table where you'll work with guided math groups or small groups of readers that are working on a similar skill. And you want to set this up where you can glance up and easily see the rest of the classroom. Make sure you haven't created any areas where students can hide with their devices, like a cozy little reading nook or something that might be blocked from your view by a bookshelf, or blocked because it's so low to the ground and there are desks and children between your line of sight and the area. And as much as possible, you want to plan for easy movement throughout the room without any cords or cables stretching across areas where they might create trip hazards. In your classroom, if you teach a homeroom or regular core subject, you will probably have 2 of these Chromebook carts. They're called Powergistics carts, just FYI. And you're going to want to place these together in an area where the cords won't be trip hazards, as they'll need to be plugged in to keep devices charged. You're going to want to make very sure that your students are using the device that is checked out to them. Each Chromebook will have a student's name and GISD barcode on it and will be stored in the homeroom class. But if, for example, your students go to another teacher for another subject, they'll need to take their Chromebook with them. It is not good practice to let students just grab any Chromebook off of a cart or to use a Chromebook that's not assigned to them, as we need to keep track if something is damaged or needs to be replaced. Some things some teachers have done in the past include on these little side colors, which are the sides of the shelves, they put maybe painter's tape or a removable sticker with a number on it, and they let a student know, okay, you are always Chromebook number 5. So your Chromebook always goes on shelf number 5. And if you have pre-readers, you can use like little animals or shapes or stars or something like that to put on the shelves. Just make sure whatever it is can be easily removed, and if you put a corresponding sticker on the Chromebook case, it can be easily removed from there as well. Student Chromebooks travel with the student from kindergarten through 5th grade. They also might be swapped out if something goes wrong with a Chromebook. The one the student currently has will be turned in and another will be issued to them. So permanent stickers cannot be put on the devices. Before school starts, think about your procedures and routines. This is probably the number one thing that will make sure your classroom runs smoothly with technology. You're going to want to clearly communicate norms and expectations and keep those norms and expectations posted in your physical and digital classroom. You're going to want to have procedures for getting students' attention. For example, you might teach them the signal Pac-Man your Chromebook so that they will close their lid halfway and then have their attention on you. You want to get their eyes off the screen and onto you. Other signals include 45 degrees, eyes on me, or give your Chromebook a handshake, which means closing it just enough that your upturned hand, as if it were going to give a handshake, fits between the screen and the keyboard. When students close their devices all the way, it logs them out, so it's a good idea to teach them how to close part way when you need their attention. Other things you'll want to teach are expectations for when they are allowed to use devices and how they should care for their devices. So as an example, we have here some of the things you may want to require of your students when they are using their devices. In our slideshow, I have a sample set of rules here. And if you open the whole template, there's also a set without the little emojis. Those are for pre-readers. And there's also a blank that students could sign or put their thumbprint on. And these are fully editable, so you can customize them to say what you want them to say. Have plans for redirecting off-task behavior. They really shouldn't be too different from the plans you have for other behavior in the classroom. Technology is just part of learning right now, the way books are or pencils and paper. So taking away their device as like a first resort is not a great idea. What you'll want to do is make sure that your clearly posted expectations are something you can point to. So for example, if I see a student watching YouTube instead of using the math or reading program I've asked them to use, I can say, Johnny, I asked you to use the reading program today, and if you'll remember looking up here at our rules, you put your thumbprint and initials saying you would follow the expectations for technology use. Are you doing that right now? What should you be doing? And what are you going to do about it? That way, students know the expectations clearly because they're always posted, and as long as you give clear and reasonable directions, they should be able to stay on task. Other things that may help you out are selecting a techspert for your classroom. A techspert is a student who can help their fellow students with technology problems. If a student has an issue with technology, they can go to the techspert instead of interrupting you during your small group time. This is a great practice to have in order to teach students that they can be self-sufficient and help one another instead of coming to you first thing every time. Also here, you'll want to become familiar with our student responsible use policy and how that plays into the student code of conduct. For your digital classroom, the two tools we use in elementary in Georgetown ISD are Seesaw and Google Classroom. Seesaw is pre-rostered for pre-K through 5 students, and it can be accessed through ClassLink, both for teachers and students. We highly recommend this, especially in pre-K through 2, as it has all of the tools you need in one platform: video, audio, writing, and so forth. It is primarily used to collect evidence of student learning, so students can complete digital activities in there. And it's really easy to get using it. And in a little bit, Heather's going to talk to you about some ways we're going to help you introduce Seesaw to your students. Google Classroom is also using K-5, and it is a perfect platform for managing Google assignments, for providing web links and videos and other learning materials to your students. Some teachers use one tool more than the other, but many teachers use both because they have slightly different purposes. If you're unfamiliar with one or both of these systems, let your digital learning coach know and they will make an arrangement to work with you. But if you like to self-learn, there are links here on this slide that will help you with learning how to use Google Classroom and Seesaw. Once school starts, ClassLink is your student's best friend and yours as well. This should be the only place you have to tell students to go to get to district-provided systems. Students who've been in GISD before will be very used to this, and even your learners new to GISD will pick it up very quickly. For more information on ClassLink, you can click on these slides, which were created by our digital learning team for this year. We are also rolling out Lightspeed Classroom Management to all classes. Your DLC will let you know the specific date that this will be ready. But your students will be rostered in Lightspeed Classroom Management, and this is a way where if you're sitting at a table working with a small group, you can have your laptop next to you and you can glance to see if students in the rest of the room who are on Chromebooks are on the things they need to be on. This will really help with helping your students understand that you're aware of what they're doing, and it can help keep them focused. One more digital management tool we highly recommend is Classroom Screen. It is something you can display on your new line to easily organize all of the things you're using, like timers, a student name picker, a traffic light, a way to present a video to the class, and so much more without having to flip between multiple tabs. This Classroom Screen tutorial is from a teacher who uses it in her classroom, is very thorough, and will give you a great idea of how to use this free program. Student computer accounts are provided and set up by the district. Now, hopefully your students will not have to type these very often because this link will show you how to print quick cards for your students so that they can log into their Chromebooks. You may want to wait until the end of the first week of school, that first Thursday and Friday, to print those cards, just so that your roster has settled a little bit and you know which students are in your classroom. 2nd through 5th grade students have the same type of username, but they have a new randomized password. And you can print a list of their usernames and passwords from your Skyward Gradebook. You can still use ClassLink quick cards with older students. Beginning of 2nd grade, it might be helpful as they're getting to know a new password. But by middle of 2nd grade to end of 2nd grade, most students should be able to type their username and password. There will always be special needs kiddos or students who just can't seem to keep that password memorized. So you can always use quick cards at your discretion. All students starting in pre-K have a GISD email account, and starting in 2nd grade, they will need to use it. It's part of the technology TEKS. You'll hear a little bit more about that later in our presentation. And once school starts, please share with your students, and again, bookmark for yourself, this GISD student technology resource that we've worked hard to create for you for this school year. This is another resource you'll want to add to your bookmarks. And when you have a Google Classroom, you'll want to post this in a prominent place to help your students. But what this resource includes is our responsible use video, which you'll show to students even before they get their Chromebooks, and then links to how to do things with their technology tools. For example, this How to Chromebook shows them built-in creation apps, helpful tips, and even tech support if their Chromebook is glitching. So these are some things for you to learn if you don't know them, and then share with your students as well. And then you can see here we have all things Google, ClassLink, and Creativity Corner, where we are adding resources for students to learn about some of the creative tools they have access to in GISD. So we hope that you will use this with your students. We are adding audio to it so that if your students are younger, they can click and hear what each part is about. And of course, your very youngest students will need to probably have you guide their use of this in an as-needed manner. We hope having all of this in one location will make it easier for you and your students to access information on how they use technology in GISD. And now we'll hand it over to Heather, who will talk to you about activities you can do to set your students up for success in the first 20 days of the school year.
Hi, I'm Heather Solis, Digital Learning Coach, and now we're going to talk about setting your students up for success. Our team has been spending some time kind of really thinking about this shift we've had over the last couple of years to being one-to-one classrooms. We've been researching and learning more through the Google for Education Certified Coach program about the Dynamic Learning Project. And it was created with the goal of really helping educators make their use of classroom technology more impactful. And we have this great research-based rubric that they developed that can really help guide our thinking and our growth around that quality and impact of technology on student engagement and learning. The purpose of this rubric is to help teachers formatively assess impactful technology use by students. It's thinking about what the students are doing with technology, and it uses two dimensions, frequency and proficiency. And it uses 6 different indicators to really look at how the students are using technology in the classroom. Today, we'll be focusing on student agency, collaboration, communication, creativity and innovation, and critical thinking. So week 1, we have a plan laid out for you for 5 weeks, but we did say 20 days, and that's because the first 2 days of school, we know you are not going to be using technology in your classroom. We would like for you to go ahead and show our responsible use video. It's created by Georgetown ISD students. It's very engaging, and as you're watching the video with your students, just pause along the way to kind of have a class discussion as you watch. Then you can go over that student use policy with them. And then we provided an optional activity where you could have students write or talk with a partner about their own list of things or their plan for using their device responsibly this year. Next, we know you're going to be teaching many classroom procedures and expectations. And this is a great way to also integrate your thinking for technology. And as you're teaching your different procedures, mention also how that impacts their use of a device in your classroom. Now we're going to be rolling. On week 2, we have 5 activities for you that we recommend that you do. By doing these activities, you will be teaching your students different tools that they can use and really taking advantage of the fact that you have this time built into your math workshop, your reading and writing workshop to really set the stage for your year. And as you're doing those things and you're not yet introducing content, take advantage of also introducing these technology skills as well. That way, it's that whole philosophy of go slow to go fast. When you move to content, instead of taking time out of that teaching and learning, you can have your kids already know how to use the technology to show what they know or to complete different activities that you need for them to do. They can move forward with the content and not get hung up on learning how to use the technology and not taking time out of your teaching as well. So we created a schedule that includes 1 activity for all 5 areas. That doesn't mean that you have to do 1 on Monday, 1 on Tuesday, 1 on Wednesday, but you could do 3 a week, or you could do 3 days a week, or whatever works in your schedule. But if you get through all 20 days, your students will be ready to use any of the technology tools that we use in our district to then show their learning. So under student agency, we have student interest surveys. K and 1, it's a seesaw template ready to be used. And 2nd through 5th, it's a Google form. This is a great way for you to get to know more about your students, but also for them to feel that you value them and want to know that information. Then Jamboard under collaboration. This is exactly what you did earlier with a Would You Rather template. It's something you can assign to your class. You can put up on the new line and they can have it on their device and they can be answering and putting post-it notes, and then they can talk to their table about why they chose their answers and what their answers were. Next is communication. Keyboarding is a technology technique that's required for students to learn to keyboard. That could be with typing.com that is available in ClassLink, or the keyboarding, like when they publish work in writing, they can keyboard type that final draft as well. Then next we have under creativity and innovation, learning the Seesaw tools. We think all students should learn Seesaw, K through 5, and this is a template that teaches them how to utilize the tools within Seesaw, like the microphone and the text and the drawing. We do see K1 as using Seesaw like a learning portfolio, and in 2 through 5, we really think it's a great tool for them to reflect on work they've done and share work with their family. And then critical thinking, code.org is available in ClassLink as Code Studio. Give kids time to explore it, but also know that there is a computer science curriculum and there are lessons for K through 12 that can easily be assigned to your students. Week 3. Under Student Agency, we have the Learning Pit. The Learning Pit is actually something you can use with technology or without. It really teaches students what to do when they get stuck, which is really important when you are pulling small groups or using stations and you can't be the only resource in the classroom. So we suggest you share these posters with them, and there's also a video that you can watch as a class and teach them how to utilize this throughout your classroom. Next, under collaboration, we have Google Docs. We don't typically think of Google Docs as something maybe collaborative, but it definitely can be. So we have a template here that you can share, make a copy and assign it in Google Classroom, and then have your students work on it and edit it. Next, we have communication, and we have Gmail. Teaching email skills is required from the technology teaks for grades 2nd through 5th grade. But don't worry, we've provided you videos to teach how to send an email, to think about email etiquette. We have posters that you can post in Google Classroom or even in your physical classroom. And we also have a video on how to create your own email signature. My students loved doing that in 3rd grade, and they would change the fonts and the colors and all of that kind of stuff. All of these videos are linked here. They're also in that student hyperdoc that was at the beginning of this slide deck. Next, under creativity and innovation, we have Google Slides. So for 1st through 5th grade, we think it's great to teach how to use Google Slides, and this slide deck actually teaches them all the tools they need to use it. Under critical thinking, we have Seesaw, and we have this for K through 5, but we have 2 different picture prompts. Picture prompts are great for helping students build their literacy and critical thinking skills. You could use this throughout the year with any picture as a quick warm-up or an exit ticket, or an activity to create something that they can use to write about. And really, those are great templates that are built into Seesaw ready for you to use. Week 4. Under Student Agency, we have an All About Me poster in Seesaw for KN1. And we'd like 2nd through 5th to utilize Google Drawings. There's actually a Google Applied Digital Skills class where it teaches them step-by-step how to create an All About Me poster using Google Drawings. Google Drawings is similar to Google Slides, except it's just one slide, and it has more robust drawings tools as well. Now, under collaboration, we have Google Slides. Students previously learned how to use Google Slides, and now they're going to learn how to use it collaboratively. So you can discuss this with your students, how you want that to look. Maybe you assign slide number 5 to student number 5, or whatever your system is in your classroom, but teaching them that they only use their slide and only edit their slide and not to mess with other people's things, and that you can use revision history to see what work they have done. Next, we have keyboarding continued. Now that they've learned how to use typing.com or whatever program you choose to use, they can try that again this week. You could use it as a reoccurring station, maybe in writing, or an independent activity, or maybe something that they can do when they're finished with other work. Next, under creativity and innovation, we have an amazing tool, Adobe Creative Cloud Express. We really hope that you'll give it a shot and try it out with your students this year. It is in ClassLink, and it is very similar to some of the more robust, labor-intensive programs like Photoshop and InDesign, but it's kind of a student version of those creative tools. And you can have students open it up, and the great thing is they can choose what kind of a product they create. Maybe it's an infographic or a presentation or a poster, But the great thing is it can be created based on their level of creativity or interest in creativity. It can be from a blank slate, or they can choose a template that they simply edit the text, the words, the font, the colors, the images in the background, and make it their own. This would be great as a final product for maybe a research project. It would be great as any type of assessment, whether it's a formative assessment or not, where they're just kind of telling you what they know at the time or what they know at the end of a unit. Next, we have under critical thinking to continue using Code Studio. Now that they know how to use it, let them get more into it and learn more, and this would be a great tool for you to add to a station. Week 5, under student agency, we have Who Am I as a Learner? Students need to really own their learning, and that starts by knowing what kind of a learner they are, knowing about their strengths, their challenges, their interests, and knowing that they can share that information with you too, and you can use that to help them learn. So we've created a questionnaire for 3rd through 5th. You can just make a copy for each student in a setting in Google Classroom, and then we have a seesaw activity for K through 2. Under collaboration, we have a Jamboard thinking routine. So in this Jamboard, students can actually reflect on the work they're going to do under critical thinking for this week with a breakout EDU. We've also included a link to a thinking routine toolbox, which has so many thinking routines. I'm sure you've heard of some of them. These can be used with or without technology. Under communication, we have our Chromebook camera. It's built into the device, so we should probably take advantage of that. Give students time to learn how to take a photo, record a video. Videos are linked here, but they're also on that student hyperdoc. And then once they've learned how to do those things, we have under creativity and innovation, students can take their All About Me poster from last week, and they can screencast telling you about it. And this is now built into the Chromebook OS, and students can pull up that poster and then screencast and tell about it with that in the background. It's very similar to Screencastify, and we hope that you'll try it out. We have instructions on how to do it linked here. And then finally, under critical thinking, we have Breakout EDU, a digital breakout room. Breakout rooms are so fun, and digital ones are as well. We think that you could put groups together of 3 to 4 and have them just use one Chromebook. This is a great way to teach them what that can look like in your classroom. There may be times when they're doing research or something and they all don't need to be using a device, but as a group, doing that together. And you could assign roles, so maybe you can think about what roles you might want to have in a situation like that. These can be kind of challenging, and that's why we suggest you put them in groups. Although we did choose a kindergarten level breakout room, we hope that, that all can do it. We have included teacher instructions and an answer key, and also a video that you could play that shows how to actually play a breakout EDU game. If they haven't done it before, that might be kind of confusing, but it definitely utilizes critical thinking skills. All right, now that you've completed all 20 days, we want to issue you a challenge. We would love for you to fill in each square with a picture of student work or pictures doing work, or maybe links to their work. So 3 under student agency, 3 under collaboration, etc. And 1 activity equals 1 square. Share this slide once you've filled it in with your DLC by Friday, October 7th at 4 p.m. and you'll be entered in a drawing for a free Starbucks drink delivery, Sonic drink delivery, or maybe even a lunch delivery. We really just want to get your feedback and see all the great work you're doing with your students. This last slide that I'll be talking about is full of digital learning resources. We've included many instructions to different tools that you may not be as familiar with as others, so that you can learn how to use them as well. We also have provided a link to our digital learning website where we have lots of information about all different kinds of tools, even more than is here. We have a YouTube with how-to videos. We are also on Twitter, and we have a podcast. And we've also included a link to our Impactful Technology Use website. You can also reach out to your DLC if you would like assistance in using any of the tools we've talked about, or need some help in your classroom, or just want a little reassurance that everything's going to be okay, because we can do that as well. day.